Hey guys, I'm Parang from Havenspire, and today I'm going to be breaking down my Nikola trade. So Nikola Motors is actually a hydrogen electric vehicle manufacturer. Basically, they make trucks and pickup trucks, and it's a company which is a relatively very new startup, and they're just into the prototype phase. They kind of make hydrogen fuel cells, they make hydrogen trucks, and everything is in a prototype version. So they don't really have a manufacturing capacity or facility here, but it's a company which is a very, very early stage company, and the Wall Street is actually going behind that company. So now the reason that I took this trade, and this trade actually gave me $10,000 worth of profit by risking around $3,500. So it was a 350% plus ROI in my trade. And the reason why I took this trade was a support bounce trade followed with a very, very positive catalyst. So let me tell you about the catalyst, and it's a really interesting one. So Nikola Motors has been in a lot of controversy in the past because of the founder actually quitting the company, having some sexual assault allegations. Recently, Heidenberg, a very big short seller, came out with a research report that Nikola Motors is a fraud and the founder Trevor Milton is actually going away with all of the public's money after their IPO, and it's completely a fraud. They don't have any product, they don't have any service, they're just fooling around everyone. I was kind of not believing that all of this is really true, and that sent Nikola stock tanking from $50 to $18, $19. The trade idea which I actually come up with was because General Motors, the parent company of Chevrolet, they actually were dealing with Nikola before that. Like before this short seller report was out, they were actually having talks with Nikola to take 11% stake in the company and allowing Nikola Motors to use all of their manufacturing facility in Detroit. So now how that impacts Nikola stock prices, that if the deal follows through or if the deal goes through, Nikola gets advantages and benefits of more than $5 billion, and plus General Motors get a stake in Nikola Motors and they get a seat in the board. So if General Motors, one of the largest automakers in the United States and in the world, if they get a board seat in Nikola and they get a good skin in their business model, it's going to be very, very big for them. And the important thing about the whole deal is that this deal had a deadline. The deadline was that the deal has to happen on or before 3rd of December 2020. If it doesn't happen before, on or before 3rd December, any party could walk off. So now for Nikola, it was a make or break thing for the company. If the deal goes through, Nikola stock would, according to a Wedbush analyst, would have been $60 to $65. So what I did was I saw Nikola at its support level, and then I took a trade, and this trade, I took this position. So it was a positional trade. I took my position, I took 4 or 5 odd days to make sure that I don't really get trapped if the stock is falling down, and I started buying more and more as I saw more support levels getting broken and it taking more support. So I took advantage of the tape reading part, and I also saw that how fundamental things are actually going around, how in Wall Street different research reports and analysts are actually making momentum for Nikola. So I'll show you all the charts, I'll show you all of my execution, I'll show you the rationale, and I just want to brief you about what really happened in the trade. Is that when I started buying a lot of call options of Nikola of different strikes, Nikola actually went with the deal with General Motors, and it was actually kind of a rumor that General Motors is going ahead with the deal. That day, the stock popped 25-30%, and in this run up, just by the expectation of this deal, just because that everyone was expecting that this deal will go through, the stock was rising up 5%, 6%, gapping up each and every day. So my option premiums were actually spiking a lot, and I was able to make a $10,000 gain on this trade. So the reason why I'm talking to you about and explaining the reason and rationale why I took this trade is that fundamental factors or any merger acquisition targets or any particular news which actually impacts the way investors perceive a stock, it can actually give huge moves, and you as a trader could actually take leverage about this trade idea and actually execute in the right way to get good percentage returns on the trade. So I'll move directly to the charts and I'll see you at the end of the video.
What's up, everyone? Hi. So I'm Parang, and I'm going to be breaking down my Nikola trade. So you've already gone through the introduction part of the video where I'm telling you what's the rationale behind me taking this Nikola trade and with such a big size. So in this particular trade, as I've already told you, that it was a catalyst trade, and I love taking trades where the stock has a catalyst or an incoming catalyst going forward. So this particular trade was quite tricky to execute, and that is something that I'll show you, like what was going into my mind. Now, there are some important things that we need to understand when we are taking trades like these. So to get the bottom right, or to just get the entry right, is not possible, at all times, because I'm not really trading purely technical. I'm trading technicals plus a catalyst. So as I've told you, Heidenberg Research, the short seller, they had been completely, every day they were coming out with reports that Nikola is a fraud, Nikola has nothing, Nikola just like has a truck on a computer, made on Photoshop, and Wall Street is just pumping money into this company, which does not even exist. They don't even have manufacturing facilities, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, these guys are just trying to dump Nikola, and and Nikola is a very heavily shorted stock. So I knew Heidenberg is one hedge fund which has completely shorted Nikola stock, like left, right, and center. And the interesting thing was Nikola stock was rising when they were actually coming out with these reports. So now it's very obvious, and the option sweeps were telling that they basically are scared that they'll get out of the short squeeze. Like there will be a squeeze if a Nikola, gets a deal with GM, and I was constantly tracking that deal. So now, technically, I wanted to see where are the areas where Nikola is getting support and where the Nikola bulls are positioned. So that's what I tried to identify. And this trade was tricky for me because when I entered, like for the next 2 days, the stock fell. Okay, and it fell like by 5-6%. So I was down about $1,400 or $1,500 at one point, but I knew the places and the areas of demand where I would attack the stock if it does not go my way. So I had a plan that, okay, this is the place where I'm entering, and I know that there are two places on the downside where the stock can go and bounce. So I did not position myself 100% in the first go. So I just positioned like 10 or 15% of my of my total size. And then it fell next day, I bought at the support again. It fell the other day again, I have bought it again. Now the third dip that I bought was like the final place for me, that if it goes lower, I'm not going to buy it and I'm going to exit my position. Now this was my plan, because I knew that if there is a catalyst, Nikola stock could just squeeze out of nowhere in pre-market and maybe after hours, and I won't even get a chance to get involved into the trade. And that is the reason why I started buying right at the bottom and right at the support areas. So let me walk you through to the executions part, and let me just share like what had been going on into the trade. It was a 6 or 7 day long trade, because since it was a catalyst trade, as I mentioned earlier. So let me walk you through with the executions, how I executed it, what could have been done better, what are the things that I feel that I did really well, and that's why I could close a profit of around $8,500. So let me share my screen and let me show you some bits of the trade. Okay, so this is my broker terminal, and you can see, so this is 7,387. So this is like cumulative gain. But in this particular trade, I had a $8,000, $8,500 winner. So before starting with the execution bar, let me show you, and let me just show my chart once to you, that what particular things were really, really important for me while I was taking the trade. And that there are some things, like, really that you have to focus when you're taking a trade, which is number one, that it is not a day trade or a buy today, sell tomorrow trade, or, a 2 or 3 day long trade. It is a trade which is going to take like some time. Okay. And I knew that. So choosing the right expiry was very, very important. Right. So for example, I actually chose 3 or 4 weeks apart. Like I chose an expiry which was 3 or 4 weeks away from the current day. The reason that I chose that, because I knew that the stock is at a support level. It's not really breaking out of no zone or area, and that's the reason why I knew that it could take some time for this whole idea to develop, right? And that's the reason my expiry and my strikes, which I'll tell you, they were just 1 week after the deal's expiry was there. So for example, 5th or 7th of December was the final deadline for both Nikola and General Motors to finalize the deal. So I took a 13th December expiry, just in case that if the deal goes through, the stock could even run up a bit more, and I didn't want to get chopped out in like theta decay or something like that. So time value, I didn't want to get affected. I paid some extra premium, but I knew that I'm going to be safe from, you know, all these consolidations and all of that. So now that's very important if you're trading something with a news catalyst and something which is bouncing off the support, because the stock could take some time to develop you know, a push from the downside. So now this is the chart that I was actually looking at. So this is a trend line that I was continuously watching. This particular area, which is shaded right here, is the whole area of my trade. So I actually went long somewhere around, so this is 6th, I think. Yeah. So this is 6th. The 6th is the first day where I took my position, right? So this is the place where you know, I can't zoom into a 5 minute because it's like a really long trade, like a 6-7 day long trade, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. So I'll just zoom in it a bit. And I'll tell you like where are the places where I potentially found some entries, and then I'll show all the executions in the chart, right? So this is the place around I think around this in the morning. I started to take a trade when I saw this particular thing breaking, like it gapped up right off the open, and I was seeing that okay, this particular level or this particular zone is being respected. It bounced off this $18 support level really nicely, and then this particular thing, once it happened, I wanted to, you know, get involved at the first place. So now this is the place where I took my first entry and the stock dipped. Then I added again around this particular level where I thought that, okay, the demand zone is just beneath it. Let me add some more here. If it goes back down, I'll add more here. So now I had the idea that this is the last place that I'll be adding my uh, position, right? So now this is the place where when it started to pop up, then I became heavy and I added more, right? And once this particular zone was cleared out, right around this particular day, I added more. And I think this was the last day where I added to my size, and then the squeeze happened and the stock went all the way up. So my entry was somewhere around 17, 18, $19, and the stock squeezed up all the way to 34 and $35. So that's more than like a 100% move in a matter of 4 to 5 days. So in options, you can get rewarded really handsomely if you're able to catch like the entire move. I didn't really catch the entire move. I actually got out somewhere around this place. I think 33s and $32 levels. I couldn't really catch the whole move. If I would have been able to capture like at least till this particular place, my PNL would have been much, much, much larger. But that's part of the game. I didn't want to lose out on any profits because I know and the situation and the news events that led to all of this thing. I think you all know in the introduction video I mentioned there was a rumor that they partnered with the GM and the stock popped up, and then the stock came down really heavily because the deal was not gone through, and no one from GM or Nikola even said that something's going to happen. It was just a rumor, but my thing was done, my targets were done, and I knew that this squeeze and this implied volatility push I want to capitalize on, and I then didn't care that whether the deal goes through or not. My trade on the technical side was complete. So now this was the overview of what really happened in the trade. Let me walk you through my journal and let me tell you how things shaped up and what were my places of entries, what were my places of exits, and how did I execute the trade. Okay, so just give me a moment. I'll share the screen right here. Okay, perfect. So, okay. Now, before I start with the screen share, it's really important for you to know that this particular trade, for example, is does not mean that with every catalyst you're going to be taking a trade with size. Like this was a support bounce, and I was tracking Nikola since like a lot of time, and that's the reason why I was able to capture this move. And it was quite possible that I would have been red and I would have been taking a $2,000 loss if the support level was broken. So it's really important for us to understand like what we're doing, and if we have a clear-cut plan in place, I think then execution becomes much easier. Okay, so this is my trade journal right here. Right now, what you can see in this particular journal is $8,450 was my closed PNL, and these are the tags that I've already told you that I give to all of my trades. So it was a swing trade, it was a support bounce. I had some profits left on the table, and that's why it is not a perfect trade, because there was some move right here, and I was deep in the money, so I could have made a bit more, but it's fine. It was an overnight holding trade. There was a news catalyst. I was long. My holding time was obviously more than 30 minutes since it's a swing trade. I was buying on dips, and it was a big profit trade. So That's how I categorized all of my executions like this. So Nikola, a heavily shorted and controversial stock, hydrogen fuel truck manufacturer, dumped during short sell Heidenberg comments that Nikola is a fraud company and the biggest scam in the history of Wall Street IPOs. So that was a very, very big statement and a very bold statement to make. And at the same time, like Nikola was having all the problems in the world. So call options were really cheap and implied volatility was not really high and the stock was just dumping. So it was a good risk reward opportunity for me. Then General Motors were looking to invest in hydrogen fuel cells and were in talks of buying 11% stake. Now, if General Motors, I just applied common sense. If General Motors is even looking at investing in Nikola definitely cannot be a fraud. It could be a company with early stage prototypes, but it could not be a company which is totally fraud. GM is not, GM is not nuts. They're one of the largest manufacturers of automakers in the world, right? The third thing was that the Nikola Badger was very important product. And as I've told you that this particular product was something that Wall Street was really eyeing because it was a Tesla Cybertruck competitor. And that was the whole deal about this thing. If Nikola is manufacturing this, they could get revenues, they could get some profits, and they could get a kickstart in their journey ahead as a manufacturer. Now, since this was a conditional and a time constrained deal, I tried to play with options, and this is the time where options can reward you really well when you have all these conditions, and when you have the time as a constraint, a price as a constraint, and when you know that implied volatility rush and crush could happen. That's the place where you would want to execute your plan if you have something. These are my executions. So 6th of November, as I told you, right off the open, I bought 10 contracts. Then on 9th, I bought 2 more contracts. On 9th again, then I added 2 more contracts. 10th, I added 2 more contracts. 10th, again, I added 4 more contracts. On 12th, I made 6 contracts as my execution. And on 13th, I added 2 more. So in total, I think somewhere around 28 contracts were my position. So my whole investment was somewhere around $2,500-3,000 in total. And I started to scale out at $5, $4.50, and $4.40. Now this premium actually went up to $8. So now I can go back and see in retrospective that I could have made like much more, but it's completely fine. So 28 contracts was the highest position at one point of time that I had. Now let's look at the execution from a chart angle, right? Now if I just zoom this in, you can see that this is the place where I bought first. Okay, this is the place where I bought first because I thought that, okay, this is a good area to buy. There was a trend line coming from the top. Maybe this is taking support. I bought some here. Then it was trying to make a new high. I thought it's a good break of the triangle. It did not hold up really well. I added more at the doji. And this is the place where I aggressively added. You can see 2 green triangles. That means I aggressively added here, right? Then once I try to make another high, couldn't break this zone of 21 and it dipped back and now started to take support right of the place where I initially started to buy. Then I added here, and then I added even here. So now these were the places where my buying process was complete. And then I was looking to trade a break of this, and once this break happened, I actually sold some off at 26.5, the $5 execution that I had, and then some of them I had to sell here because I was waiting for maybe another push. So these were some executions on the buying and the selling side. On the 5 minutes, I just show you the executions like this. Since it was not able to make another high, the volume was dying down. I exited 10 of them here, and then once this happened, my premiums got crushed a bit. So I wanted to have a flag or a pullback, not to short but to exit. Now that's very important. Even when you know that your stock has just dumped and you're into a long position and you want to take profits, don't try to exit here. This is for experienced people. I was watching the tape. It was nothing that could just dump right off nowhere. So I thought that let it just push up a bit. On the 1 minute, I was just watching it on a 1 minute, let it push up a bit so that the premiums get settled. And that's where I exited the rest of my position. So now if I walk you through to this particular thing where I have journaled my executions. So $8,450 was my profit on Nikola. It was a short squeeze trade, and this is what really happened. So this can give you a good idea of what was going on. So if you see 11th December was the expiry, as I told you, 7th December was the deadline, but I chose a higher expiry, a longer expiry. So these are all my executions. And I even bought some puts just to hedge it, but it was just useless for me. But This is just execution that you can ignore. And these were my sell side, like $5, $4.50. So 10 contracts, that is 1,000 units sold at 5 is $5,000 credited, $4,500 credited. So this is $9,500 credited. And then again, I sold 8 other contracts at 4.4. So that's my executions. And if you want to see what really happened, so this is like a headline. Nikola goes on a wild ride on report of GM Nikola finalized deal. And the GM says he signed deal with Nikola to be the exclusive supplier. Now, this move, this particular news event or this particular thing was a rumor, and that caused the stock to jump like 30, 35%. And I was able to capitalize on my gains. Right, next, if I show you what was the P&L. So after the fees deduction, $8,444.80 was my P&L on Nikola. And that was one of the very good trades that I took by analyzing like multiple things together. So now I'll try to share you, like, this is like when the trade was closed, but while the trade was going on, everything was not so goody. So I'll just share a Discord snippet of the Havenspire Discord server. So this is where, so this is how I closed my trade, right? This is how I closed my trade. But this is the place where I announced that, okay, I'm going to take a trade on Nikola. And you can see I was down around $1,651, and I was like really down 40% of my position. So now this is where things are important, and this is where all the drama happened. So if you look at this, GM signed this deal, and I even had another $4,000 gain on my small account. I'll cover that up later. The same rationale. So in total, I was actually booked around $12,000 on this whole trade. Like if you see this, I was up $3,500, and I exited the same time. So in total, I think $12,000 gain was there. And on that particular day, I was up $12,000, but I obviously didn't book everything, and nothing was realized. Now, this is where I say there's drama and Nikola spikes. It is unclear if the announcement was made. So the thing that I'm trying to share here with you is that it's not always easy and goody to execute a trade like this. Sometimes it becomes very, very challenging. And when it becomes challenging, you just need to back yourself up and just execute according to your plan. And if things are going according to your plan, make sure that you take profits on equal intervals and you know what your exit plan is. And that's why you should go heavy on things that you're confident about. So for me personally, I was not really confident that Nikola would double in like 6 days, but I knew that some bit of volatility is going to be there. And even a small bit on the upside, I can maybe scalp in the sense that I can just get out in chunks and I can build my position from there because it has a potential of short squeeze. So now you've all seen GME, GameStop short squeeze, which was like epic and historic. Nikola short squeeze was not that big, but I was still able to take advantage of 100% squeeze. So yep, that's it from my side. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time for more such content. Please consider subscribing. Thank you and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.